Kudos to you. That was so quick. She got the visa approval or the message from embassy or consulate in just 2 days.
I was wrong. I did not know that. So I thought 1.5 page for the cover letter and then the list of attested documents of why, this is important and what I'm going to do after I come back. Somebody on Eurodreams already said it correctly. It's not that you want to go to Italy, you'll go to Italy. If Italy wants to call you, you'll go to Italy. Scheduled. But that is not the case. That is not what last minute deposit is.
Simran, I don't know how to speak to camera. I don't know what I'll say there.
It's not going to be easy. It's very challenging.
So welcome back to our channel once again, and today in one of its kind interviews we have our visa series back, and sitting with me today is Simran Gajra. She got acceptance from University of Milan and Mumbai consulate and then a visa from there. So yes, there's a lot to discuss with her. There are so many things from documentation to funds and everything. So yes, stay till the end of this interview as we have a lot to talk to Simran Gajra. So yes, a very warm welcome, Simran, to our channel.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Okay. So to start with, Simran, I would like a small introduction from your side for our audience.
Okay, sure. So my name is Simran Gajra. I am from Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, India. I got into University of Milan, and I got my visa and everything done from Eurodreams, and now it's time to go. And so this interview is basically going to be a description of all the process that I have gone through to be here today.
You must be on the seventh sky now. You must be all happy and all good things around you then.
A little bit of that, a little bit of scared because again, it's like a new decision, new life altogether. So mixed emotions, I would say.
Yeah, actually, it makes sense. A lot of new things, exciting at the same time, a little bit of a scary too. Okay. So to start with, I'll start from the very basic thing. The first thing that you have chosen University of Milan for your course. And yes, it is a good choice, of course. Milan itself is ranked among some top universities in Italy. So how did you got to know about Milan and then a decision to go to Milan only? How did that happen?
So naturally, like any student, I went on Google, searched up the list of top 10 universities, top 10 public universities in Italy, and then of course got into each one of them trying to find the course which was relevant to me. Most of the top universities, which was Sapienza, Polimi, required 16 years of prior education. Since my bachelor's was 3 years, I had only 15 years of education. So that already narrowed it down to, a couple of universities. Next was to find a relevant course because that is ideally, the goal, not just the university So Milan ultimately was sort of a tailor fit because not only did I get the course that I want, also the university spirit was something that I was looking forward to. So the kind of people that I'm going to meet, the peers that I'm going to have is, something that is very dependent and relative on the university. So it was perfect.
So it makes sense that if I say that you had a background research on the university, you had a lot of work to do in the background, right?
Everybody does, and I think it only makes sense if you do that because it's your decision and it's going to last, a long time. So it only makes sense that you do that research.
Yes, absolutely. A good pointer. A background research is required, whichever university you are targeting. Okay, to move on to the main part of visa itself, the first thing that comes to my mind when I ask of visa is how about the documentation? Because nothing goes more important than the document part in your visa process. So how about that?
Okay, so I will not say that was easy, but it was definitely worth it. So the documentation took me about a month and a half to get everything on board, and I had a stack of paper which was about 8 centimeters thick. So there were a lot of documents that were considered, and it was challenging. There were some places that I completely felt lost, and I was like, it doesn't make sense that I have to do this, but I did it anyway because it was a requirement. And I think it was its own challenges, but it was so worth it. So everything from the checklist. So the checklist is like a very concise sort of a document, but the actual documents that go in a visa file are probably 10x of what is written in there. So of course, the efforts and the hard work was simultaneously there.
Okay, what I heard from Simran is, to our audience this time, out of all that she has done, it is very important that you have right set of documents. first thing. Another, you might feel lost throughout this process, as everyone knows. The process is tough and lengthy too. So it is important that you keep going with consistency. Time will come. It will be little easier as you go on with the process rather than panicking prior to it, right?
Makes sense, yeah, 100%.
Yes. Right.
It's a journey.
Okay. Yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey. Absolutely, it's a journey. The most important part of this documentation is again narrowed down to cover letter. You have heard of it. Everyone sitting in this interview or on our channel knows the importance of that cover letter. So I would love to know that how did you prepare that cover letter? What were the things? What do you feel are the most important part of it?
Okay, so I'm going to start in a chronological order of how I did it. But before that, I would like to specify that the cover letter is only a single page, and the other half of the page is the documents attested to it, because I was wrong. I did not know that. So I thought 1.5 page for the cover letter and then the list of attested documents, but that was not right. So in a single page, what I covered was, initially I started with who I am, what I did in, what my career before this has been, my university, my marks. Second was why Italy. So there was a meticulous planning that actually went into it. So it was very honest and real of why I chose Italy. Again, like I told you, then it was University of Milan. Why University of Milan? The course was very relevant to me. The university was very relevant to me. Post that, I went with, how I am, arranging all of the funds, the accommodation, the insurance, and the etiquette. So that was concisely put in. The last one was a plea, sort of, that this is a dream. This is, again, I'm the first one of my lineage doing that. So it's an honor to be here, and it's also I'm grateful for the opportunity to be considered even for this. So the last one was just a plea, like I said, and that was the end. So it was very concise. It was one page, and it was very heartfelt and real, I feel.
Wow, authenticity is so important, as we have discussed prior in our videos too. You got to be real about whatever you feel about your process, whatever you want to do in the future, right?
Yeah, correct. Makes sense.
And what about the intention to return to India? Because many people get lost at that part. That what would I write? I have no such aim, or what to write exactly in that part.
Okay, yes. So a specific line. So I mentioned a specific para, which was only about my intention to return. What my intention was exactly aligned to my course. So I'm going for entrepreneurship. So I said I want to come back and have my own venture firm. And this was very specifically noted down. And why why before that venture firm, I want this course. What this course is giving me is, the particular parameters that I will be needing for my venture firm. So it was very well connected of why, this is important and what I'm going to do after I come back.
Wow. So it makes sense that the process is more about relevancy. You got to start with the relevant point and you got to end at the relevant point too.
Yeah.
Okay. Now talking of the sponsors detail, like if you can tell me about how much fund did you show, how did you arrange those funds? Because financial proof are one of the major factor where students get visa pre-refusal, that your visa funds were not clear, documents were not clear.
Yes. So my father is my sponsor. He is a businessman, and it took me, like I said, over a month and a half to collect all of the business proof. So this was very particular to my case. If you'd like, I'll tell you, there were GST, not just the GST registration, but the GST filings for the last 2 quarters. ITRs is something that is already mentioned. GST is not mentioned. I put GST in as well as valid proof. I put business license. I put FSSAI license because it's food business that my father is involved in. So all of this was there. Apart from this, there were memos, cash memos, because there were little amount of cash deposits. I'll come back to this later, what last minute cash deposit also is, because I was confused in this point. Cash memos, and of course ITRs were there. So a lot of documents were very pertinent to the business itself. One was required, I submitted 4, and I think it helped.
Oh wow. So the more you submit, the easier it is to explain your part to the other person.
They don't have to kind of find everything. They just can see the proof, and everything, in itself is justified.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the reason, to our audience, she got the visa approval or the message from embassy or consulate in just 2 days. If let us suppose she applied today, in just 2 days she got the reply that her visa has been approved, because it was so easy to check her profile. We can assume that, because You swipe through the papers, you see her profile. There are so many documents defining itself that what her process is like. Right, Simran?
Yes, correct. Okay, before we
Okay.
proceed, I want to
Yes,
mention a
please.
single point about last minute cash deposit because I know this is not in common general knowledge. People misconfuse it for being money that has gotten into your account in the last time before your visa interview is scheduled, but that is not the case. That is not what last minute deposit is. In my case, particularly, money had come in on 15th, my interview was on 17th. So 15th was the day that I was getting all my statements stamped and everything done. So money had gotten in on 15th as well, and that was not an issue. Last minute deposit is basically any money, any amount that has gone in the last 6 months of your statement that has no proof or backing or justification of where it is coming from. So it doesn't matter if the money goes in the day of your statement, you're getting it out. It doesn't matter if it's going in the last month. What matters is you should have valid, genuine proof of where is that money coming from. It doesn't matter when you put the money in. As long as you have proof, nothing matters. I had a transaction in February, so my interview was in July. And I had a transaction in February that was coming from my grandparents. So that is considered borrowed fund, and that is something that is considered as last minute deposit. That is something that I got to know a lot later. So I had to return that money and show that I have returned that money. So just confusing the last minute deposit thing.
Wow. So justification is very important of whatsoever fund you have, whatsoever you have arranged till now.
One
All
of the
right.
major
All right.
reasons of pre-refusal is last minute, and people do not understand what last minute exactly is.
Okay, great, Simran. This was really helpful. Okay, moving ahead, the next thing that comes after my documentation part is my visa interview. Now, from audience perspective, if I say, Simran, I don't know how to speak to camera. I don't know what I'll say there.
Mhm.
I know my documents, but I won't be able to speak it. So, what do you say about those visa interviews and questions?
I mean, you have to master the courage to speak it up there because that is your singular presentation of who you are as a person, who you are as your personality. So try practice it in front of the mirror, practice it in front of, give mock interviews, try and get your family involved if you have to. But it's really important that you're able to speak there the real things that, you've actually written in your cover letter and that your documents consist of because it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, now as you have talked about that one needs to be courageous. Okay, I'm courageous, but what kind of questions they might ask me? What were the questions to you?
Okay, so the questions are very basic and they're very pertinent to you and your profile. I'm going to give you some of the general ones that I was asked. So, as I entered, my first question was not introduce yourself. My first question was, what is your age? Where do you come from? And then she went on asking me about why you've chosen University of Milan. What motivated you to take this particular course? And then I went on about what motivated me. So my further questions were about what you do, my work, which was, I freelance, and that was my ultimate goal is to turn it into a full-time business, and that was ultimate motive behind me choosing the course as well. So she went on about asking me what I freelance about, who my clients are, how much I charge them, what I do for my clients, particularly one history of a client that has been a successful project. Then my next question was, who is your sponsor? Again, what does your sponsor do? How much does he earn? And my last question was, where did you do your graduation from and how much did you score? And that was it.
Wow. So cross questioning will be there. You got to be particular about
Yes,
details that you are speaking.
yes, yes.
Very
And very
important.
clear about the facts as well. And the numbers. Numbers are
Yes,
important.
we generally say in our videos कि आपके जो documents है वो भूल कर पी लीजिए because that's what they are going to ask you about. There's so much about your document and
Correct.
the whole process. Wow,
Correct. The
wow.
numbers are
Okay,
very
okay.
important.
Absolutely. And now talking of the numbers, as you have said, how much fun did you show in your whole process, like for visa?
Okay, so I showed about 12 lakhs, which was not required, but I could, so I did. Yeah, it was arranged from my father's business, so there was not much of chaos in the sponsor documents or in the funds because I had already pre-prepared my documents. I knew that my interview is going to be somewhere around this time, so from January I had started maintaining the funds so that I do not have any problem in the near future. The funds were obviously used after that as well, but the funds were more or less maintained since January this year. My interview was in July.
Okay, wow. So a long-term history where you could define where the money is coming from, how much you are showing is important.
Yes.
All right. Now, as you have told about your process, and you already have an experience of sitting in that interview and everything. Now, tell me some tips. I'm completely new. Tell me tips about interview or tips that I should keep in mind throughout this process of visa.
Tips that you should keep in mind throughout this visa process is it's not going to be easy. It's very challenging. But eventually, you have to make sure it all comes down to the visa, because if you worked really hard and if it doesn't go here, you're probably it's a make or break step. So make sure that there's not a speck of error. You're not lying. You're not forging anything. So when you see your documents, you should be careful and you should know that I know for the best of my knowledge, nothing is wrong here. Nothing is false, and there is no possible error that can be made out of these documents. That confidence somehow reflects in your interview, and somehow keeps you going as well, because we as students, I also had this problem that I had overcomplicated it in my head than it was in my real life. So I had overthink scenarios. After coming back, I was very confident when I went into the interview. I was like, I know everything, my documents are clear. After coming back, I had thought of 100 different scenarios of why it could go wrong. So do not do that. That is definitely not something you should be in your head. Definitely don't do that. Another thing about the visa to keep in your mind, like I said, do not overthink scenarios. If you have a decent candidature, I feel you'll get your acceptance. People overcomplicate it in their heads, mess up their interviews, and ultimately mess up the candidature. Do not do that, and it's easier in real life, so don't overcomplicate it.
Okay, so I get two tips from here. The one is to prepare thoroughly of whatsoever I know about my profile, everything, and second is to not overthink the situation. Right?
Correct. Do not
All
make
right.
sure
So
the
to
documents are all real, because they can make
yeah,
out the
yeah.
difference.
Yes, authenticity, being on point, being real is very important in real life in this situation.
Correct. Correct.
All
Even
right,
for
all
my
right.
accommodation and air ticket, people show booking.com proofs or the fake proofs. But I did not. I took a risk. I went out on a limb. I booked an Airbnb with another person. So the receipt on the name on the receipt was for the other person. It was not mine. But I made sure that I was proving the transaction that money has went into her account. I showed that it was a risk. It was a calculated risk, non-refundable. So, but yeah, I think that made a difference as well. So the proof was also real. Everything in my profile from very beginning to the bottom was authentic.
Wow, authenticity is so important. It's all the story that she has told us throughout. It makes complete sense that be real, be authentic. That will really make an impact when you sit in that interview. They are experts sitting there, यार वो आपको देख के पहचान जाते हैं that what is true and what is not.
Correct.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so when did you apply for the visa and then how many days or from which date to which date you got the visa acceptance?
Okay, so I applied for my visa in advance because I got to know that the slots run out. So I applied for my visa in May 2024, end of May, towards the end of May. My interview was scheduled for 17th of July. There were particular reasons for me selecting the date. So 17th of July was my interview. 18th of July, my documents reached the embassy. And 19th July, I got the confirmation that my visa had been approved. And on 22nd of July, I got my visa in hand.
Oh, kudos to you. That was so quick. One of the fastest process actually. That was so easy for you to
It
just
was
simply
unreal.
swipe through the documents. It was unreal, really.
It was unreal.
Wow, wow.
I did not
All
expect that it
right.
was going to, I knew that it was coming not this fast.
Yeah, great, great, great. Because you are in 100 of those scenarios that you have already created in your mind. That
Correct.
everything could go wrong with me. All right, all right. Okay, so to talk about the ending part of this part, what I would like to know is now you yourself have experienced everything from the starting application to ending part of visa. Do you think for anyone in general feel like one should get a consultant or not, or am I capable enough to do my process on my own? What do you think?
Okay, first of all, yes, you're capable enough to do it on your own. But if you have other things on your plate, if you have, like I had a million things going around with me, so I could not, put my complete focus on this. But complete focus is required in order for you to land a good university, land a good course, get your way basically. But so yes, you are capable if you have time and effort and energy that you can spend completely and 100% on your application and candidature. If you do not have that, and if you have money to spare, I would recommend that you have, get some help. Again, even if you get some help, you will have to be 100% invested in your application, because it has to come around. When you do your visa, everything is checked, from how much were you invested, how well do you know about your application. So it all comes around, so you have to be invested yourself. The only difference is you have to be less invested and you have people doing that for you. So depends, relative scenarios. If a person is, everybody is capable, I feel. If you've come so far, yes, you're capable and you can do it yourself. But if you need help, I don't think there's any harm in getting it.
Wow, so it goes equal ways. If you are capable, you already have a guidance from your family, then I guess one can do the process if you have past experience through anyone, maybe your family member, friend, or
Correct.
something. And if no experience, nothing, it is better to go with a consultant where you could get a good help from them.
Correct, yeah. It's
All right,
also
all
like
right.
when you're starting from scratch, you do not have relevant enough information. So, help, any help basically you can get from YouTube as well. But particularly to your scenario, you won't get it on YouTube. Like, what's your current situation, YouTube doesn't know. So,
Yes,
you probably
exactly.
would need help there.
Yes, like talking of our channel or whatsoever, or whosoever person you watch on YouTube, you might get general information, but it is very targeted thing that matters. So you might not get that information on
Correct.
YouTube and
Correct.
internet too, including. So okay, so to end this, Simran, I have a very last question to you. To every new applicant applying to Italy or any place, what are your tips or your advice to that person? The final words for you.
Go all in. Do not, you know, try to run out of stuff. Go all in. Make sure there's not a speck of error. Make sure that you are involved with all of your heart and soul, because I think somebody on Eurodreams already said it correctly. It's not that you want to go to Italy, you'll go to Italy. If Italy wants to call you, you'll go to Italy. So make sure that the calling is strong enough. Make sure that you're putting all in, all efforts that you possibly can, everything that you can do in all your power. Do not compromise with anything, I would say. Just go all in. Make sure your efforts are on point.
100% efforts, authenticity, reality, and no compromise on anything throughout your process. That consistency will
Correct.
define where you stand in your process.
Correct. Make sure you are as involved as your consultancy is. It's your application at the end of the day.
Throughout the process, this was the best line you have said, because being a consultant, we know it is very important for students to be invested in the process. We are doing on your part, but of course your what do you say, part is equally important. We cannot do everything on your behalf. There are certain things that a student himself or herself has to do it. So yes, it is hand in hand. One has to go the one
Correct.
step and the other has to go the other step. That is how it works, right?
Correct. Yeah. Me
All
think
right,
so.
Simran. All right, all right. So this was all in this video. A very big thanks to you, Simran, for being here on this channel today. And I'm
Glad I
sure
could be
it
of help.
has really helped our audience today. So yes, a big thank you to Simran Gajra today, and to our audience. There are many more coming to you. And if you have any question for Simran, just drop us in the comment. We might ask her and give you the answer back. So yes, I guess this was all in this small interview. Many more to follow. So for that, subscribe to our channel. And yes, thanks for watching.